go. Alright, these impromptu YouTube live streams are always kind of weird. I need to share some linky around. And then we should be golden. That is some linky sharing there, and do some linky sharing here. And then some additional linky sharing here. Ah, there's some people. Hey Mikey, hey Joe. I hope everyone can hear me okay. And just the YouTube streaming process is still relatively new to me. And last time I did it scheduled, it didn't actually go live when I hit go live in OBS. I hit go live in OBS and then I had to hit go live on YouTube before it was actually live. So I thought it was going to do that this time. So I went live in OBS and then the idea was to share the link around and then actually go live. But that hasn't worked out. So you're just sort of staring at a box of Chaos Space Marines for a minute while I share the link around. And then once I've done that, then we will be golden. So, just a little bit more linky sharing. Just gonna throw up a little chill build and chat stream. Would be lovely to catch up with some of you. Come and say hi. Link. Okay, that is now shared to all the social medias. Can I up the microphone at all? Let me see what I can do about that for you. Will this help? Adding my compression back in should help, because I can just put a bit of extra gain on it. Does that significantly improve things, or is it? I mean, it shows me that I'm outputting a lot more now. It's it says I'm being much louder now, but I never. The problem with OBS is that OBS never really honestly lets you know what your viewers are experiencing. It's a bit. It kind of just doesn't really honestly display just how much louder you've got. Like on my little I don't even know what it's called, meter. On my little meter that tells me my audio output, I was, before I added the compressor, which subsequently adds some post gain as well, I was just going sort of through the green and just touching the yellow. And now I'm going all the way through the yellow and quite a ways into the red, which to me says, oh, I'm clipping, I'm overloading, because that should be what the red section's for, right? The red section of the sound meter should be to tell you if you're clipping, because there's too much gain there. But typically, people don't seem to complain that I've got issues with clipping. In fact, if anything, my audio's got really, really good since I moved over to a proper XLR setup. So there's not really a reliable way for me to honestly know what you folks are hearing. All I can really do is kind of hope that the meters are roughly right. But thank you for being here, folks. I know obviously I don't stream very often. Do the elevator pitch now. I'm not. This isn't the start of me going to be streaming often or anything like that. It is just a case of every now and again I like to stream because I like to have a chance to chat to people. You know, just to catch up, see what people have been up to, answer questions from regular viewers who might have some questions, that kind of thing. It's just a nice opportunity to be able to connect with people. And whilst I don't enjoy streaming, so it's not something that I ever want to get back into doing every day like I used to. The reason I stopped doing it is because I don't enjoy it. But I do like the opportunity to catch up with people. And so every now and again I like to throw a stream up for whatever reason. Sometimes there's this excuse or that excuse. Today I'm literally just going to be sat here building for a couple of hours. I don't know how long I'll actually sit and stream it for, but I just thought to myself, do you know what, while I'm just sitting here doing some brain dead work that requires very little concentration, wouldn't it be nice to just throw a stream on, see who's about, have a chat, you know? That to me sounded like a thing that might be fun. So hopefully there's a few of you out there that want to sort of stick around and chat and talk about hobby and stuff. Maybe folk can tell me what they're working on hobby wise at the moment. Maybe folk can tell me what they plan to achieve hobby wise this year. You know, what's on their list. I can also sort of, while we're doing this, and you know, just to break up the monotony a little, I can sort of spoiler a few things like this, for example. I can get you a closer view of it. There you are. This is Chaplain Tarantus, or Chris Tarrant as I've taken to calling him. This is something that I'm working on at the moment for the channel, and there's going to be a video of sorts on this, but it's not going to be a tutorial video. There's so much long-winded advanced bullshit in this that I just think it'd make for a kind of boring tutorial, because pretty much every section of it is, you know, me doing a bunch of stuff that I don't normally do. It's a bunch of extra stuff. And the net result of that is that's a bunch of extra explaining that needs to be done. And if I was to tutorialize this, I think it would probably easily be a 45 minute to an hour tutorial. And I just don't think that that's super fun a lot of the time. I think the long play videos are a bit different because everything's at real time, and I think that kind of slows down the mental pace. But I am going to do like a photo journey. So I've been taking photos at kind of all the key stages of this guy's life. And when he's complete, there's going to be like a photo journey. And then this is a bit of a spoiler, so it's not something that I'm sort of doing a big announcement about yet, but I don't mind talking about it. So I've actually got two of these. I've got two of them. This is this one. You can see the scar from where I've opened it. And then this one is obviously still in its cello. And what's going to happen is once this is complete, these were both sent to me by Lazy Dragon, my sponsor. And the plan was paint one, keep one. That was what they said to me. And the one that I painted, the original intention was to do a giveaway with the one that I painted being the prize. And I sort of thought to myself, do you know what? Like, wouldn't it be nice to just offer people the option? So what I decided to do, I realise that glare is probably quite annoying. What I decided to do is when we get round to doing the giveaway, you'll actually have a choice to either win mine that I've painted, this one here, or the brand new in-box one. And whichever one the winner doesn't want, I will keep. Because I actually play a Chaplain Terminator in my army, which is why they sent me an extra one. They sent me an extra one as a gift to me, because they know that my Ultramarines army has a Terminator Chaplain. So yeah, I thought it'd just be a little bit nicer to give someone the choice, you know. So whoever wins this will actually get to pick whether they want my one or a new in-box one to enjoy building and painting themselves. And I thought that was a pretty neat idea. So that's something that's coming up on the channel. Lazy Dragon are currently running a different promotion right now, so I'm letting them finish that before we get rolling with it. But that's good because it takes the pressure off of me to get the work finished on that. So, you know, it kind of works out fine for me anyway. But today I just thought we'd paint some, or build some Chaos Space Marines. Oh, I've also just, if I go here and I go, what's the easiest way to do this? Open link in new tab. I've just finished uploading. Just dive out of my chair for a moment. Right, so I've just finished uploading a video for this guy, this Night Lord's Praetor, Forge World jobby, and it's not actually going to be out on general release yet. It's coming out on early access for my patrons literally now, which is what prompted me to stop doing what I was doing in the first place, because I need to actually go and share a link to that for my patrons so that they can access it. But this is actually a test scheme for a huge commission I've just taken on. I'm painting an entire Night Lord's Heresy army for a client, and this is the scheme test for it. So I'm pretty proud of this guy. I think it's pretty rad. I've never done Night Lords before, but they are an army that I wanted to do for myself at some point. So I did sort of have quite a few ideas in my head of what I would want to do with them. And a lot of those ideas seem to have worked out, so that's pretty rad. That's pretty rad. Right, let me just catch up with chat. One brief moment, my loves. Let's see here. I know Theo streamed a few times, it was always a challenge. Yeah, it is. It's a tricky thing to do, streaming. It's tricky for a number of different reasons. I'm going to spray Larissa Shadowstalker tonight, testing out blending on her. Nice. That'll be a fun time. That'll definitely be a fun time. Chaplain is great. Yeah, Chaplain, that's a dope miniature. It's a really cool miniature. I agree. Fraser's here. Hey, buddy. Good afternoon. Underdog's here. Hello, mate. How are you? I think I'll join in the building with some regular Space Marines. Good idea. I do have a tactical squad box lying around somewhere. So at some point I might do another one of these streams when I sit and build that. Has this got Emperor's Children transfers on it? Oh, it's got Word Bearers transfers on it. I'll be nicking those. And those Night Lords ones probably as well. The client collects Emperor's Children, so they will actually not need anything on here. There is no Emperor's Children on here. That's not helpful, is it? That's not helpful at all. But there is Night Lords and Word Bearers. This is an army that I do. Obviously, as I said, I've just taken a big commission for Night Lords, so some transfers for them are handy to have on hand. Yeah, nice. That can go into my transfer drawer then, because that's definitely of zero use to my client, but definitely of plenty of use to me. So, I don't actually know what we get on this sprue. You enjoyed the last video? Thank you. Ooh, what's this? Just gonna do some chill building. Just some. I wanted to say Airfix and chill because it sounds like Netflix and chill, but Warhammer and Airfix they're definitely not very similar. So that's a shame. Airfix and chill is definitely something that should be a thing though, right? Gonna be painting my Swarm Lord while watching. I did one of those recently. That's a nice miniature. Oh, Underdog, that's good news, man. Make sure you're all checking out Underdog Painting. He's got a lovely little YouTube channel and a Facebook group to go along with it. He's a really nice guy. Yeah, it's a nice mini, the Swarm Lord, Mikey. It has some interesting challenges, definitely. There are some things about it that are a bit of a pain in the arse. But like typical Tyrannid stuff, really. There's just some stuff that's kind of a bit tough to reach. Bit of a pain. Warp Fiend, hello. Can't stop very long, but thought I'd pop in for a bit. Well, that is appreciated. It is lovely to see you, as always. Again, Warp Fiend Studios, fantastic painter, YouTube content creator, Facebook defender of the good, just generally an alright human. Someone who you definitely would not regret having in your life. A good egg. So make sure you are following them. Do we really not get a power sword here? Do we really only get a power axe? Like, power sword is an option, so why don't we get a power sword? We only get a power axe. Okay. Well, that's live. Let's take a look, see then. So it looks like yeah, it's a typical GW sprue. Parts are not on the sprue in the order that you want to work with them. For example, that is 1, and this is 2. It's probably going to become fun at some point. I'll just take off all my legs and pair them up. That's always the first thing I do. This one's obviously no work whatsoever because my legs are together on the sprue there. We got some more comments coming in. Let's see. Oysterbix, hello mate, how you doing? Paul Robinson says, yeah, there are no Emperor's Children transfers in anything. I'm painting an EP Predator and have a load of Kit Bash Noise Marines to make too. What a pain. I wonder why there's no transfers anywhere. I'm not the biggest fan of transfers. If you just watched my most recent video, you'll see that I tend to dodge transfers where I can. I think, you know, they can be a bit of a trap sometimes, but when you're painting a squad, no one really wants to sit there and freehand every single symbol on the shoulder pad of every single Space Marine, for example. It's not the easiest thing. Loving the videos you've made, massive Night Lord fan. Oh, that's awesome news. Yeah, so you'll be ready and waiting for this to come out then. This will probably come out next week, the tutorial for it. But it is on the way. Jack Park says, hey, new to your channel and loving it, and I've been binging your content for the last few days. Just wonder which brand of brushes you use. Great question. There's a couple that I kind of swear by. The thing with brush selection is there's an element of subjectiveness to it, right? There's no such thing as the best brushes. Anyone that tells you there isn't understanding how evaluation works. Because different painters require different things from brushes based on both how they paint and their personal physical characteristics as a painter. So for example, I'm quite a heavy-handed painter, which means that a firmer brush is better for me, because a firmer brush, if I am being a bit too heavy-handed, I can still get finer work out of it. So a particularly soft brush isn't good for me. But some people find it really hard to work with a firm brush, stuff like that. So there's a lot of different reasons why different brush brands work for different people. My two brands that I really love are Broken Toad. I absolutely thrashed this one. I wanted to really stress test it because my sponsor, Lazy Dragon, were asking me if I was interested in switching to these full time, and so I wanted to make sure that I gave it a really good stress test. So I absolutely ragged it, treated it like shit. It lasted about 6 weeks under pretty heavy abuse, which is actually about how long a Rosemary & Co. lasts me under pretty heavy abuse as well. I tend to not be the best at looking after my brushes. Kind of half as a time-saving thing, like, I'll just be completely real with you. The way I treat my brushes isn't the way you should treat your brushes, okay? But for me, because I'm a professional painter, because I paint for a living, my brushes are tax deductible, right? This is a tool for me to do my job. So every one of these that I buy, that same amount of money gets knocked off of my income tax at the end of the year, because this was a cost of running my business. So I don't have to worry about how long my brushes last. It makes no difference to me. As long as I've physically got the money in my bank account to buy brushes, the economy of how long they last doesn't matter as much to me. So I'm choosing brushes for two reasons. One, obviously the ones that I like the most, and two, I'm going to be choosing brushes based on availability, essentially. But these Rosemary & Co. Series 33, these are actually my main favoured brush. I might switch to the Broken Toads. It kind of makes no difference to me at the moment, because the Broken Toads I buy at wholesale, and these Rosemary & Co.'s I buy at retail. When you work out the actual difference in what I'm paying, it's not much. But it doesn't really matter that these are more expensive anyway, because like I said, they are tax deductible. So it kind of doesn't make a difference. But these Rosemary & Co 33s, the reason I really, really like them is because these are actually a brush that I can recommend to everyone. This is kind of one of the things that I really like about Rosemary & Co as a brand, is it's very easy to feel comfortable in recommending these to anyone, because they are very cheap for the quality. They're about half the price of a Winsor & Newton, and they are certainly not half as good. The problem I have with the Winsor & Newtons is you tend to find that like 1 in every 3 is broken straight out of the packet. They're great brushes. They're really, really good brushes. But I just had too many of them failing on me. And that was why I stopped using the Windsors in the first place. And that was how I discovered the Rosemaries. With these, I never get quality control issues with them. They're always bang on. They last well. They're lovely brushes. And I paint pretty much exclusively with these. But like I say, there is a possibility that I'm going to be starting to use Broken Toads more, just because I can get them through my sponsor, and you know, it's better for me to order as much stuff through my sponsor as possible, because everything comes in on one package then. Which, you know, makes things a bit more predictable for me running my business. If everything's coming in one package on one day, then that's a lot easier. So it's definitely in my interest to order stuff from my sponsor. But the big difference, the big sort of potential alarm bell, I guess, is that these brushes are they're very, very close in terms of quality. The Broken Toads and the Rosemaries is very, very close. But this is a £12 brush, and this is a £6.50 brush. So for me personally, this has to be the brush that I recommend you buy, because this is better value for money. But for me and my everyday use, it actually tends to be easier for me to buy these, because the cost difference for me is very little, and this means that it comes in the same package as whatever I've had from my sponsor that week. So this is a bit more convenient. But I do flip between the two. I know that was a very long-winded answer to a very simple question, but I do feel it's important for people to understand why you're recommending things. I don't recommend Rosemaries because I think that there is no brush on the planet that can ever perform better than it. I don't think it is the best brush that can ever be made. I recommend Rosemaries because I do not think there's a better value for money prospect. It's just as simple as that. So Rosemary & Co Series 33, and I am sorry for the really long-winded answer. Right, what was the next question? Tell that to the Loyalist Marines as well. Can take a Thunderhammer, Power Sword and Power Fist, but none of them in the regular Marines box. The Mark 3 and 4 kit has Power Fist, Lightning Claw, Power Maul, which I believe is still an option. I think Power Mauls are still an option. And then Missile Launcher and Heavy Bolter. So again, you know, you don't have all of your heavy weapons covered. But the Mark 3 and 4 Heresy kit, if you're building a Chaos Space Marine army, I actually recommend that you buy that over this kit, because the fact that you get actually, to be fair, you do get a Power Maul here as well, but the fact that you get a single Lightning Claw, and I just personally prefer the look. I just really, really like the look of the Mark 3 and 4 Marines. Mari's Hive is here. Hello, how are you? Good to see you. Reminds me that even though Battle Sisters can have multi-melters, they don't come with them. Yeah, that's a way to sell you an extra miniature, eh? Got my Series 33 in the post today. Rad. Let me know what you think of it, mate. I have to check those out. Winsor & Newton have definitely dropped in quality. Yeah, it's been a bit of a problem. And to be honest, it's been going on a while, I think. Quite a while. Jack says, thanks dude, really appreciate your advice and time. That is what I'm here for, Jack. That is like the whole goal behind pretty much everything I do. So you are most welcome. It ain't no thing like a chicken wing, as they say. Who says that? I was about to say as they say, and then it occurred to me that literally no one says that. Also, here's the thing. I talk about this quite a lot in my Discord, about asset reallocation. Games Workshop really likes to reuse its sculpted assets in different armies, and Something that I've noticed that's particularly funny is that this current Chaos Space Marine box actually has a few reused assets. For example, the sculpted area of the backpack here from the Primaris kit, which is really funny because they're supposed to be a completely different size. Yeah, there's a lot of asset reallocation goes on in GW kits where they'll take the 3D sculpted part and reuse it in a different kit. Always makes me chuckle. Like I like to play this little game where I sort of try and spot them and try and figure out what kits they're from. For example, like the Mechadendrites on the Lord Discordant are from a Necron kit. That was one that I found fun. Also, the another one on the Lord Discordant is that the handle of the Bale Flamer is the same asset as the bolt pistol for the bolt pistols for all of the holstered Primaris pistols, which is pretty funny. Hey Chris, good to see you, mate. He also confirmed that Rosemary and Co brushes are some of the best out there. Very much a level up moment when I bought mine. Yeah, having a good brush definitely helps. It's not going to make you a better painter. It's definitely not going to make you a better painter, but it's going to allow you to paint closer to your potential. Ted Mosby said it. Hey Mechan86, how are you? Good to see you. My local art store has not received Winsor & Newton brushes in 9 months. The supply chain is broken, I guess. Yeah, potentially. I don't miss them. I honestly, genuinely just don't miss Winsor & Newton brushes. I liked them for a time, but the quality control inconsistency issues were just too problematic for me. Chains are always particularly bad offenders for asset reuse. Yes, that's true. Oysterbix, one thing I don't understand is why GW won't take back sprues for recycling. They can literally melt it down and make more models of it, right? Apparently this plastic isn't recyclable. Which is that certainly is a possibility. Like that, there are plastics that can't be recycled. It's not an automatic thing that just because something is plastic it can be recycled. So I definitely see no reason to call bullshit on that. But apparently, yeah, it's currently not made from a plastic that is recyclable, and it's to do with there are 2 types of plastics essentially: thermosets and thermoplastics. And one of them can be melted again. The other can't. The other just burns and deteriorates, and it will physically melt, but it can't be melted in such a way as to be useful again. And I believe to get the crisper details that are expected from GW miniatures these days, they can't use the type of plastic that can be melted and recast, unfortunately. I believe that is the reasoning behind it. The one that can be melted and reused is not able to pull the precise detail that we expect from Games Workshop kits these days, which, to be fair, that is a customer-driven change. It's not like, GW didn't invest a bunch of cash into making their casts better quality just because they felt like spending a few million quid. They did it to impress customers. So, I get it. I'm not really one for sticking up for GW when they're being shit heels. But I totally can understand why they would be using these types of plastics if they were producing a better cast. I can understand it. Who wants to resculpt chains over and over? Yeah, I definitely agree when it comes to silly stuff like chains, but when it comes to things like, when we're talking about, say, a Chaos Space Marine whose armor layout is based on, Mark 7 armor, for example, which the majority of the Chaos Space Marines seem to be based on either Mark 4 or Mark 7. Those are the 2 most common armor types that they base the kits around. And then like all the gun handles look exactly the same as the literal Primaris fucking brand new bolt pistol. It's like, it's a bit immersion breaking for me. But stuff like chains, yeah, like I get that. I definitely get that. Just COVID things with broken supply chains. Yeah, for sure. Like, it's going to be like that for a while, isn't it? There's going to be just a lot of unexpected disruption to various things in life. And, you know, we're just going to have to lump it for a while. I think when it comes to like art stores and stuff like that, in my experience, art stores tend to carry pretty deep levels of stock compared to the amount of stuff that they sell. You know, like for example, I used to go into my local art shop every week just to catch up with the staff. You know, and while you're in there just catching up with the staff, you browse the shelves just for something for your eyes to do while you're chatting, sort of thing. And, you know, I'd quite regularly notice like exactly the same paintbrush that, you know, had some sort of distinct identifying feature or something, you know, that was still on the shelf for months and months and months and months along with all of its mates. And so what, you know, what if that is in any way typical of how art stores are generally run, then I suspect what we're seeing is just that, you know, those deep levels of stocks that art stores usually run are starting to dwindle out now, and they're actually having to place fresh orders and, you know, renew that supply chain. So we're probably just starting to see the effect kicking in now. I've certainly known at least a couple of art stores who hold way more stock than they're realistically ever going to sell in a short period of time. Hey Greg, how you doing? Lost the top end of my shadow. Oh no! No, James! F's in the chat for James, please, everyone. That is not cool. That is not cool at all. I thought, for some reason, this Emperor's Children commission, I actually thought that it was in 40k colours for the whole time that it's been sat in my commission queue, which is about 3 months now. And I finally got round to starting this commission today, which is, it's going to be a tiny bit late, but I always tell my customers the lead times I quote are approximate. You know, things can go either way. Some people get their stuff really early because, you know, it's convenient for content to do it early, and sometimes people get their stuff a bit late because I didn't have an opening as soon as I thought I would to work on it for them. You know, that's just how it be. How the fuck does this go together? Okay, something like that. Cool. And yeah, for the whole time that this commission's been sat in my queue, I've been absolutely convinced that it's pink and black, like the 40k Emperor's Children colours. And I was today years old when I discovered that it's actually in the 30k colours, even though it's for a 40k army. So it's actually the purple and gold, not the pink and black. So in my head, I've been sort of brewing up these kind of thoughts and ideas for like what's going to be the most sort of time versus quality efficient way that I can do pink and black. And I was like, do I spray them black and then manually paint the pink, or do I spray them pink and then paint all the fucking trim, which is not something I particularly enjoy doing with Chaos Space Marines. And I just sort of resolved to spray them pink and then paint the trim black because it would look neater. And then I found out that it's actually purple and gold, not the pink and black. Osterbeek says, how long have you been painting models for? 29 years, if I'm being like to the letter of your question, 29 years, to the spirit of your question, I didn't really start painting models as an actual hobby until I was probably about 9 or 10 years old. But my brothers would occasionally, from the age of 6, I went into Games Workshop and painted a sample model as a 6-year-old boy, and that was 29 years ago. And my brothers would occasionally let me paint their odd sort of hand-me-downs and stuff around that age as well. So I was taking an active interest from as young as 6, but until I was sort of 10 years old, I didn't really sort of own any miniatures of my own, or, you know, pursue collecting any armies or anything like that. So the hobby as a whole didn't really come in until more like 25 years ago. I know that feeling. Just started on November's commissions now. It's a fairly quick turnaround. Yeah. 3 months for me is about it's about the average of where my queue sits. You know, 3 months is like, if I'm working at about the pace that I normally work, and I'm getting about the amount of work that I normally get, then 3 months is about what you'll be quoted. If I'm working at normal pace but I'm receiving less work, then, you know, you'll get your stuff. You'll get quoted a quicker lead time, and vice versa, obviously. But yeah, it's it's definitely not fun when it starts to go the other way. When you start to get into like my list, there was a point in 2018 where my commission list was 6 months conservative estimate, because I just took on a massive job at the start of the year that just like wiped out a bunch of my available time, and yeah, it was just a lot of work getting through and crunching my queue back down to a manageable point. To be fair, I've thought about doing Death Guard in 30k colours, that cream white. Yeah, I love that. I don't know if you remember this or not, TJ, but the Death Guard video that I did was actually in the 30k scheme. I really, really like the 30k scheme, and there is a 40k like storyline reason for them to be wearing. There is one of the chapters, because obviously the Death Guard is a Chaos Legion. One of the chapters within the Legion actually kept those colours. They didn't go to the all green. I can't remember what they're called. I think it's like the Pale Hand or something like that. They've got some really silly name. But they did actually keep the 30k colours, and so there is reason to play them in the 30k colours if you wish to. You know, if you want to be fluff appropriate still. Thought about doing Death Guard in 30k colours. No, I've just read that one. I miss making models, listening to your dulcet tones. Them dulcet tones. Thank you so much. I have one of the most annoying voices possible, which makes being a content creator very difficult. I have to... the problem with my voice is that I'm a very excitable person. So my pitch is constantly going up and down. My volume is constantly going up and down. And those are really bad things for recording video. The amount of times I have to do an extra take because I get halfway through a sentence and realise that the way I've said something is going to come out really stupidly, and so I have to record a second take. You folks, when you see the edited videos, a lot of what you see, you know, is 1 take or 2 takes. It's pretty straightforward, but every now and again there'll be the odd section that's like 4, 5, 6 takes, and I'm like, for fuck's sake, this is going to take forever. I think I remember the video. Yeah, I think it's just called Pale/Ivory Death Guard or something. It's a fairly old video, so it was kind of before I started to try and figure out how to name videos best for YouTube in order to get them seen. Right, I need to go now. Have fun. I'll leave this playing to get you the extra watch time. Oh, thank you so much. Warfiend, you have a good day. Take care of yourself, and I'm sure I'll bump into you on the Facebook or the Twitter before too long. Is anyone looking to try and start a business by doing commissions, etc.? What advice would you give them? No, I love the questions. The questions are great. That's more what I'm here for than the building. The building is just something for you to look at while we chat. The reason I'm doing this stream is because I want to chat to people. I want to chat to my viewers. So I appreciate the questions. Do keep them coming. What advice would I give for people looking to start a business doing commissions? Forgive me while I vape a little bit because I feel like I'm going to need to load up on nicotine before I answer this one. So there's a few things that you have to realize. Running a business and having a hobby are very, very different things. And running a business requires you to take responsibility for keeping that income steady, keeping it coming in. Because at the end of the day, if your business isn't making money, at least enough to sustain you, then like, what are you doing with your life? How are you affording anything? How are you but on the other side of that, getting a business to the point where it makes money takes time, and you want to be trying to do things as right as possible from the offset in order to minimize the amount of time that takes. There are a number of facets to this. So the first thing is like being good enough. If people are sending you unsolicited messages asking you if you take commissions, that's probably a pretty good indicator that you're good enough to be taking commissions. There is no objective black and white way to define if someone is good enough. And like for me, for example, back when I was painting 2D, back when that was kind of how I made my living, people had been asking me to take commissions since like 2012, and I used to take commissions, mostly just for like a bit of money for a Chinese takeaway, or to buy some new brushes, or just trade the work for other hobby assets. Didn't really do it to make money, and I continued doing that up until the point. Hey Brandon, hey Pingy. I continued doing that all the way up until the point where I was getting so many commission requests that it was like, this is maybe what I should be doing for a living. So the first piece of advice I give anyone that wants to start a business painting professionally is to know when you're ready and to act as soon as you are ready. Going into it prematurely tends to mean that the variance is a lot greater, which makes it very hard to have a stable business and a stable income. And that's something I had to learn the hard way, because I really had to fast track my transition into mini painting. So as a 2D painter, I had a very stable, very regular business. I had regular clients. I was doing good quality work. Brandon Brown, the person that's in the chat, was actually my mentor. That's the guy that taught me how to paint 2D, or at least, taught me how to unlock a lot of my own potential, at least. We actually paint quite differently. There are similarities, but our styles are actually fairly different. So I wouldn't say that he, from a mechanical point of view, didn't teach me quite so much as he did maybe from a philosophical point of view. But he certainly is the person that I would accredit most with helping me level up as a 2D painter. And I was good at it. I was established. I had regular clientele. It was a steadily chugging away business that I'd had going for a couple of years. But the problem was that the 2D painting that I was doing was I was altering Magic the Gathering cards. So I can show you an example. I've got cards that I've painted here. So this is the kind of thing that I do still do a little bit of it. The problem was that whilst I liked the painting, I liked having a creative job, and it was pretty stable. It was, the work was fairly regular. I was able to, always make rent and eat well and buy myself new clothes and that kind of thing. I wasn't struggling. There were obviously occasionally months where you'd struggle, because that happens in any walk of life. But for the most part, it was all going well and fine. But the problem was that I was just falling more and more out of love with Magic the Gathering, which, like, starts to make it really, really difficult. You can't really relate to your customers very well when the thing that they're passionate about is something that you really dislike. And they're coming to you for the work because they're passionate about Magic the Gathering. And like, how do you get on that level when you've really lost your passion for that hobby, and you're starting to realize maybe it's not coming back. Maybe that passion is staying gone. And this was kind of where I was at. And so by that point, I'd been sort of starting to take the odd mini painting commissions here and there. Obviously, I've painted minis for a really long time, and I've taken casual commissions in the past. I've painted for friends for a bit of beer money and stuff like that. But I was actually starting to incorporate mini painting into my professional work, because it's always been my main passion. Warhammer has always been the hobby that I love most of all my hobbies. It's been the one that I've definitely had some quite long breaks from it, but generally the breaks from it were not due to not wanting to play or not being interested, but just due to being too busy. The passion for the hobby never went anywhere. It was just not always possible to fit the hobby in. And the end result was that it sort of dawned on me, like, if I'm going to continue having a creative job and and being a professional artist, I've got to get out of painting these Magic cards. And that means that these mini painting commissions that I've started to take, I need to start pushing that as how I'm going to make my living going forward. That's the only sort of logical route forward for me. And I had to fast track that. I didn't have time to just sit there piling more and more 2D commissions into my workload that would have been stressful and unfun. Yeah, Brandon's in a very similar place right now to where I was back then. This was, sort of a bit over a year ago for me now, and Brandon's kind of just, we've been talking about it a bit recently, sort of just getting to that same spot now. And so I really had to go into the mini painting before I was ready. I hadn't put the time in to establish myself as a name for commission painting. I hadn't put the time in to establish my YouTube channel, and my YouTube channel's been growing kind of coincidentally along with the commission painting. The intention was always to get to a place where, and this is still the plan, to get to a place where the commission painting is just sort of top up to my earnings. It's just a bit of what's the expression? Supplemented income. That's the expression. So the intention with miniature painting commissions has never been for them to be my main source of income. They are at the moment, and that's fine. Like, that's kind of part of the plan. But long term, the intention is for running a community and a Patreon and creating content on YouTube. Those things are the things that I want to do full time, because those are the best ways that I can communicate my passion for the hobby, the things that interest me. Those are the best ways that I can put that out into the world in a way that is positive for other people, that could potentially help other people. And that's kind of always been something I've wanted to do. I feel like for a lot of my life, I've not really lived in a way that benefits others very much, for various different reasons, for personal and circumstantial reasons. But a lot of my life has kind of been spent just sort of trying to get by. And I am one of those personalities who really wants to help people, who wants to do stuff for people, who wants to inspire confidence in those around him and build people up and, you know, leave a positive mark on the world. Like, that's kind of always been something I've wanted for myself, and creating mini painting content is kind of the closest I've ever come to being able to start achieving that personal goal. And in the last sort of year or so that I've really seriously been concentrating on, you know, both building my commission painting service and in turn building my YouTube, that's become more and more real. That's become more and more a fact of my life, which is, you know, it's pretty powerful stuff when you've kind of been on a lifelong mission to try to achieve something, a personal goal, and you're starting to see the beginnings of it come into fruition. And those of you that are watching right now, I imagine a lot of you are probably patrons. Those of you that aren't patrons, our Discord community is fucking unreal. Like, it's become already way more than I ever could have expected it to. It's become so much more of a resource for, you know, building people's confidence, giving people a place to feel like they belong, somewhere where people can laugh and have a good time, and that's not really on me. You know, the honest truth is that's on my community. You know, they're the ones who make it such an amazing place. But, you know, being the person who facilitated that is a huge achievement for me. And, you know, that sort of comes into my second tip for anyone that wants to start a mini painting business, which is, you know, have clear goals in mind. Know what you want from it. Because once you know what you want from it, you can spend time concentrating on how to get that, instead of just, you know, flailing around aimlessly and not really knowing where you're going in life. If you want direction, you need certainty. And so it's much easier to know what you want than it is to know how to get it, because you know, knowing what you want is an entirely internal thing. That's just a decision you have to make for yourself. Discord is my default hangout these days. I love it in there. I really genuinely love it in there. Like God's honest truth, I was about to sort of get all this stuff out, and I picked my camera up off of the front facing tripod. I have a front facing tripod which is for recording, you know, face cam and the little 360 videos of miniatures and stuff like that. I took it off of that tripod and put it onto the overhead one, and I was like, oh, I'm going to flip the Hangout and Hobby on, because in my Discord we have Hangout and Hobby most days, where, you know, people will sit with microphones on, sometimes with cameras on. I've almost always got this camera, the one that you're looking at now, on, and we'll just sit and chat and hang out and make each other laugh and fuck around whilst doing hobby. And my instinctive kind of, you know, my first thought, when I, you know, decided I was going to start work on this commission, was to jump on that, and to get into the Hangout and Hobby and hang out with my patrons. There's a bunch of them here. I can see a bunch of them here. And I just thought to myself, you know, it'd be really nice to just sort of do a similar thing. Just, you know, sit and chat and just shoot the shit and, you know, see what people want to talk about. But just like in general, just, you know, with my entire viewership, instead of, I hate the thought of being someone who, like, hides all the good shit behind a paywall. And I think, you know, most people understand that, like, in order to make a living, you've got to hide the good shit behind a paywall. There's not really any way that you can make a living as a creator without putting your content that you create behind a paywall in some way. And so, you know, finding that balance of, like, what you give to everyone and what you put behind a paywall is difficult. And that's one of the reasons why the Patreon starts from $1 a month, because as far as I'm concerned, everyone can afford $1 a month. You know, if you're down to less than your last dollar every month, you're probably not hanging out watching painting videos on YouTube anyway. You've probably got more serious things going on in your life. Do you know what I mean? So anyone that's kind of actively hobbying and looking for the things that my content gives, presumably can afford $1 a month. And so that was where that decision came from to have the Patreon and thus the Discord be kind of the big, it's very cheap, it's very accessible, but it's really fucking good. It's really special. And again, that is my third piece of advice for if you want to start a painting business, and that is learn what you are offering, understand what you are offering, and understand the value of it. And that's a big lesson for me this year. That's probably the biggest thing that I've learned this year, is where the value is in the things that I'm doing. What are the things that mean the most to people? What are the things that give back the most to people? And in any sort of creative job, you have to have that understanding, because just painting miniatures is not going to make you enough money to pay your bills. That is just the simple truth of it. Just sitting there and painting miniatures on its own will not make you enough money to pay your bills. Unless you don't mind just doing such ridiculous volume, and if you don't mind just hammering volume, then yeah, fine, fair enough. But for me, that's not enjoyable. I have no interest in just putting volume out, so do yourself a favour this year and join the Discord. Joe, you are like one of the biggest pimps for the Discord. Mini Studio says, I have a hard time working and talking at the same time. I'm mostly trying to control my breathing and keep a steady hand. It's a thing. It's definitely a thing. When I do videos for YouTube, obviously, like everything that I do is with voiceover, because I don't like talking at the same time as I'm doing any kind of delicate work. Something like this, I don't mind streaming it. That was another one of the reasons why I actually stopped streaming mini painting, was because I didn't feel like I could do my best work whilst constantly talking. Like in a hangout and hobby, you can just go quiet while you're concentrating, right? Like no one's going to be upset at that. So like when I stream into the Discord and hangout and hobby, if I'm doing a bit that requires precision, I just shut up while I'm doing it. No one minds. But when you're on a live stream like this, if I was sitting here painting right now and I got to a fine bit where I really had to concentrate and control my breathing, like you say, I'd be silent during that. And that's not great for a stream. That's not what people want. People don't want to just show up to a stream and sit in silence, right? So, it's another reason why streaming wasn't for me. But yes, again, a very long-winded answer to what is probably quite a simple question from Oysterbix. But yeah, there are the important things are to make sure that you're ready, to know the value of your work, and what was the other thing that I said? Asking people with ADHD to give detailed answers is sometimes difficult. You forget what you're saying by the time you finish saying it. But those are definitely the two most important ones anyway, is to know when you're ready and to know the value of your work. And then, also, like, that passion needs to be genuine. I think that's probably the final word. That passion needs to be genuine. Don't just do it because you think it'll be cool or because you think you'll get kudos for it. You've got to love it, because sometimes you're going to be doing shit that ostensibly isn't enjoyable. I don't like batch painting particularly. I'm gonna fucking sit and batch paint this squad of 10. Do I want to, on a surface level, sit and batch paint 10 Space Marines for someone? Of course I don't. Like, I've got my own armies over on the shelf beside me that I can go and sit and batch paint to my heart's content on. But what I do want to do is provide this guy with a squad of Chaos Space Marines that he really fucking loves. And that's my passion. That's not the practical everyday of doing the job. That is my passion. My passion says to me that I want to hook this guy up with a really cool squad of Chaos Space Marines. And so on the days when the job isn't being fun, your passion is what's going to carry you and prevent you from feeling like you hate your job. I don't have days where I feel like I hate this job. I thought I was going to spend my entire life being a chef, and that's something I was fucking good at, really good at. I rose up through the ranks extremely quickly in that industry. I was put in charge of kitchens. I went into it a little bit more mature. I was like in my early 20s when I first started, whereas most people start sort of straight out of school. But you know, I was in charge of other chefs very quickly, in charge of my own restaurant very quickly, and that came from talent. I was very good at it, but talent alone doesn't carry you through the bad days, right? Through the days where you don't enjoy your job. Passion has to also be there. And the truth of being a chef for me was that whilst I had a passion for cooking, I definitely had a passion for cooking because I still cook fucking loads now. And even while I was a chef, I would still cook outside of work, which is something that if you ask a lot of chefs, they don't tend to do. A lot of chefs don't cook much when they're not on the job. I always cooked when I wasn't at work because I fucking loved cooking. But I didn't really have much passion for being a chef because being a chef isn't just cooking. There's quite a lot more to it than just cooking. And that quite a lot more, the vast majority of it, I didn't find very much fun. And especially if it was anything that took me away from the stove. Your Element Games order just arrived. Boo! Boo! Element Games! I'm only joking. Yeah, like, the more I rose up in that job, the more I became better at it, the more trust and responsibility was placed in my hands, the less I got to cook. The less I got to cook, the more I realised I hated being a chef. And that was why I ended up leaving that career. I was very successful at that, you know. I got my first head chef gig at 26, 27? That's young to be a head chef at a good restaurant. To be a head chef at, like, you know, a fucking 2-star hotel or something, or a Weatherspoons or whatever, you know, that's one thing. Oh, Balnor, have you just patroned? Have you just patroned? Heather with a bit of Element Games sarcasm there. I like it. I like it. And but you know, to hit head chef of a well-respected city centre restaurant that has an established clientele that young is pretty serious, and that came from my ability, not from my passion. And that's kind of another really big thing is being able to understand the difference between your ability and your passion, and what those things do for you, what the function of those two qualities is. You know, your ability might impress people, but if you're not enjoying what you're doing, then you're not going to work to the best of your ability all the time. And if there's one thing people are going to notice, it's when you slip, especially in the world of YouTube. If I make a mistake in content, I don't always have time to fix it. You know, there's occasions where something will go wrong in a video, and if I spend the extra half a day to fix it for whatever reason, like a good example is if I'm in the middle of painting something and and my head gets in the way of the camera, you know, like this. You often see this shot in some of my videos. You've all seen that shot. Erratic Buddha, hello. Yeah, it does mostly involve a microwave, Chris. You are quite right, mate. You are quite right. Balnor, thank you so much for pledging on Patreon. I really appreciate it. Welcome to the campaign. Enjoy the Discord and all the benefits that you will be getting, as well as that. I'm sure we will see you in the Discord. If I click the Discord and I click General, there you are. There you are. You are in. So welcome. Thank you for joining us. Have a look around. Get to know the place. Where was I? I was in the middle of saying something. Do you remember that time I was in the middle of saying something? Microwaving steaks, yeah. That's a worry, isn't it? Microwaving the steaks and then just popping on the bars just to get some colour on them. Come for the painting, stay for the shit show. Sorry, yeah, I was talking about when I make mistakes in videos. So like that shot where my head gets into the camera, it can happen. At this angle, where I'm fairly top down, it's really hard for it to happen. I have to really lean over for my head to appear in the shot. But I'm not normally at this top down angle. Where the camera is like here right now, it's usually kind of over here and angled in more. And the reason I do that is because that gives you a much better view. Like if I'm painting, my normal angle that I'm going to be holding the miniature at is like this. So if I'm painting back here, for example, you can't see. Whereas if the camera's round to the side, you can see. So that's the difference. There's my doorbell. So if that happens during a shoot, the vast majority of the time that miniature I'm working on is probably a commission, right? So I can't. Darling was actually one of my porters for a long time, and is a very good friend of mine. I can't go back and repaint out that area and then paint it again, right? Because there's a risk there that I will fuck up a miniature that a customer is paying me for. So I don't have that option. That isn't, it's just not a choice I can make. But what that means is that I have to make a decision to leave that in the video or completely cut the footage. And what I actually end up doing varies depending on the circumstances. You'll have seen in some videos I will leave the footage in. In some videos I'll put a little bit of text up on screen that says I lost the footage for whatever reason. And quite often the reason I've lost the footage is because of my fat head. I wasn't able to get a clean shot because I had to get my head in close to see what I was doing. But like, you will be called out for that, even though that's a mistake you can't help. Like what are my alternatives in that situation? I cannot repaint the section because I might damage a miniature, and that miniature is a commission. If I start the miniature again, that's gonna add another at least however much time I'd already spent on it to my day, plus the time to prep the miniature again, plus if it's not a miniature that I have in stock, then I'm going to have to buy another copy. Like, that isn't a realistic option either, and everyone can understand that. But you guarantee every time there's a video where my head creeps into a shot and I have to apologise for it, I guarantee you that video will have downvotes, like more downvotes than usual. It just always happens. Because people will call you on your mistakes even when you can't do anything about them, And that's, it's a very unfortunate thing about creating content in the public eye. But again, it's one of those things where your passion is what gets you through that. Your passion is what helps you overcome that and take it on the chin and just carry on working. Squirrel. I fucking love a squirrel. We've got a squirrel that likes to run along our back fence. He's been coming here for about a year. Only ever experienced the kitchens my dad worked in, thankfully. All proper stuff, yeah. Proper from scratch is the way you want to be doing it. Microwave steak heresy. Oh, mugs. Oh, it's snowing? Is it snowing in Leicester? I don't think Leicester's snowing. I'm peeking out through the blinds and I'm not seeing snow. Plenty of snow here. Exiled beyond the wall, the frozen north. Oh, Aberdeen. Aberdeen's nice. Aberdeen is not the worst place in the world. Yeah, but why would we downvote the hair? Actually, do you know what? I've got some sad news for those of you that are fans of the hair. For those of you that like the multicoloured do, I am going to be going back to something closer to my natural colour, unfortunately. I suffer from quite bad scalp psoriasis, and when I've got coloured hair, because the nice bright colours are semi-permanent, I can't use the shampoos that are good for my scalp, because the shampoos that are good for my scalp are really deep cleansing. So I basically end up, I can either have coloured hair that constantly itches and flaky scalp, which is just not attractive and not something that I want on camera. Like, that's not, I don't constantly want to be having to like brush scalp flakes off my shoulders when I'm filming videos and shit. And believe me, like, if you play fucking Spot the Snow, it definitely has been a thing in videos, and it's really embarrassing. But then, like, you know, the alternative is have a permanent dye, which means that I can use those shampoos again, but it means that my hair's going to be a much plainer colour. So my hair is going to be going to a much plainer colour, unfortunately. Just catching up on comments again, folks. Just showing what colour are these Marines going then. Callum, these are going to be Emperor's Children in the Heresy colours. So they're going to be purple and gold trims. I'm going to do some torsos next. It's going to be fun pairing up some of these torsos. Some of them are going to be a bit of a mare, I think. It depends. I don't know how universal this kit is. All my Chaos Space Marines are Mark III and Mark IV. Used to live up past the border in Braemar. South Oxfordshire had a pitiful snow this morning. I've seen heavier frosts. Ruth and I recently got the Scouring of the Shire Mesbug expansion and a bunch of minis for it. We plan on playing through the entire campaign together and doing it properly and making scenery, etc. As part of this, I got a set of Finecast minis. Oh, Finecast is so bad. Oh, mate. You poor thing. Heaviest snowfall we saw was 6 foot one year. I can never quite make my mind up how I feel about heavy snowfall. Like, it's pretty, but it's a fucking pain, isn't it? It just is a pain. It's the bubbles that upset me. Flash is flash, you know. You have to clean up even plastics, so it's not like flash matters too much. You're going to be doing scraping anyway. But the bubbles, fucking bubbles. No, thank you. Not a fan of the Bublés. I approve of that colour scheme. Do you know what, Fonzie? If anyone would, I figured it would be you. I love snow. I'd rather live somewhere cold than hot. Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. I once went to Vermont, woke up and they had 10 foot of snow overnight. Jesus. Can you imagine just waking up to 10 foot of snowfall? Fuck. Bought a resin printer so I didn't have to deal with Finecast. You see, if there were more, like, really good quality third-party GW compatible parts out there, then I think I probably would have already got a printer by now. It is on my list this year. Like, this year it's one of my things that I want to get into. But I didn't jump on it straight away because the majority of the third-party GW compatible stuff, you know, the stuff that actually I would use for playing Warhammer, especially for the armies I collect, there just isn't much out there that I've been able to find that's particularly great quality. And that could totally be me being fussy as well. That could totally be me, you know, having too much of a vision in mind for what things should look like, and, you know, Forge World resin stuff is so on point, barely any cleanup. Yeah, I cannot say that I agree with that. It definitely has gotten better. They have made improvements with Forge World, but it's very, very variable. Very variable. Like, this guy wasn't too bad. This guy was pretty straightforward. The only thing that kind of pissed me off with this guy, if I can get my super zoom up a minute. Why is my super zoom not coming up? I think I've changed a mode on my camera without realizing, because there's supposed to be a super zoom mode that happens when I edit my focus, and that is not happening right now. I do not know how to stop it. So that's something I'm going to have to fanny around with now to figure out how to change. Did I click a button somewhere? I don't know what I've done. I don't know. I'm going to have to fanny around my camera. But these wires here on the back of his Volkite thing, there's space filled in between them by wayward resin, and you can't scrape that out without snapping them. I started trying and I could instantly see the white fracture lines. I was being so gentle, and I just kept coming super close to breaking it. This part also has to bend a lot in order to get into place. Like, you have to warm this up and bend it to take the stress off it and stuff. There's definitely still issues on Forge World stuff, on actual full fat Forge World stuff. They're just lesser than Finecast. Hobbit hole frontages, nice. That'll make making hobbit holes much easier. Got myself a Harridan arriving in a few hours. Gonna love making it bioluminescent. What's a Harridan? Parts and models getting better all the time. Maker's Cult has 2 great ranges of guard alt models. Oh, now you see, that's interesting stuff. For me, I'm mostly looking more for bits than models. I will say that because I would rather use like GW minis as a base and convert them. But you know, it is what it is. Depends on the casting age I find. Yeah, exactly, Mugs. I've been lucky with a small sample size. I think that's where a lot of people's views are formed, mate. Honestly, you know, it's not a stretch to say that a lot more plastic and resin goes through my hands than the average mini painter, and so there's probably stuff that my slightly larger exposure shows me that that, you know, most hobbyists might not ever get to see, just as a result of the amount of miniatures that go through my hands each year. The Lion, beautiful. My old Krieg, oh boy, every other model was a contact customer service issue. It's the slipped mold halves that upset me. That's the one that, because any other company would just chuck that out. And resin you obviously can break back down and reuse. It has to be, I think it has to be ground to powder, and then I think they use acetone or something. I don't know exactly how the process works, but resin can be reused, whereas you know, with the discussion we had earlier with the plastics, it's not always the case. I have to say, I do love my 3D printers, FDM for bigger stuff in terrain, and the resin for minis and detail parts for bigger prints. I'd love to get into it, but I do think it's a fantastic art form in its own right, and a really, really interesting tool. It's definitely on my list for this year. We'll see how successful this year is. If I do well, if the channel hits its targets that I've set for it, and things continue to grow, then, you know, fingers crossed. Hopefully, we will get a 3D printer for the channel, and we'll start being able to do some 3D printing based content, which would be great. I do think that that's something that I would like to start adding to the repertoire. Right, now I've got to figure out which torso this goes on. Not you. Is it you? It's not you. Is it you? It might be you. It's not you. Is it you? It's you! There we go. Figured it out. Process of elimination. One of the greatest tools in our arsenal. Who's this beautiful bastard streaming again? Thanks, James. It's good to see you. This isn't going to be a regular thing, mate, so, you know, if you want regular streams, you've got to join the Discord. Unfortunately, I stream into the Hangout and Hobby, and chat with patrons most days in Discord. Certainly at least a couple of times a week minimum. And I love that. Really enjoy it. But public streaming is not something I want to get back into doing a lot of. It's not entirely for me. Jimmy, please. Sorry, mate. I'd rather use GW minis, but if you play Guard or Eldar... Oh, yeah, no, I agree, Heather. I agree fully. Like, Guard, Eldar, Tyranids, there are so many grossly outdated miniatures in those ranges that are desperate for a refresh. But hey, we're getting new Drukhari, right? So there's hope. There's hope. Although the new Drukhari Codex will probably come with, like, a couple of new miniatures. It won't be a range refresh, I don't think. But you are totally right, Heather. I have a friend who has a Mars Elegoo. He said to me that it's a hobby in its own right. He's found a nice niche printing stuff for a local model railway group, doing station signs, etc. That's dope. That's really dope. Yeah, that's a very cool idea. I think 3D printing is just, it is so multi-purpose. There's such a broad range of things that it can do. Like for me, like I said, I want a resin printer because bits for conversions become a lot more of an interesting prospect. And going on from that, like the knock-on effect of that is that if I taught myself to sculpt, that becomes even more of a thing, right? Like if I taught myself to sculpt, then I can actually literally create my own conversion bits and print them out. And that's also really cool. Folks, I'm really, really desperate for a piece. I'm just going to BRB. I don't actually know if my streaming software still has a BRB. I don't think it does. So I'm just going to leave this main screen up for a second and I'll be back in just a moment. Okay, you see, this is how committed I am to this I'm not streaming anymore thing. I don't even have a BRB screen built into my encoding software anymore. Shy Miniatures range. Yeah, wouldn't it be rad? Wouldn't it be fucking cool? That needs to be on some merch. I fucking love a squirrel. It's true. I do love a squirrel. Biggest favourites are donkeys and otters, I would say. They're probably, obviously, cats. I've got fucking hundreds of those. Tortoises. Got one of those. Tortoises are brilliant. Cats are brilliant. But squirrels are definitely up there. They're in the A tier of animals. They're maybe not S tier like tortoises and cats, but they're definitely in the A tier. I really want to play Guard because I'm so enjoying the Gaunt's Ghost, Caiaphas Cain, Last Chances books. Yes, Heather. Gaunt's Ghost is one of my favourite series that they've ever written, and Caiaphas Cain is very close to it, indeed. The sculpts picked Iron Hands because I'm an amputee. Nice! That's pretty cool. I personally think it's really sweet when you can kind of relate to an army in some level. Like, especially if it is something that you would normally view as a negative and you can find it as kind of a reason to have a deeper affinity with that army. I think that's really cool. Quick, while the cat is away, we can play. What's your favourite pizza and why is it deep dish? Deep dish is fucking great, isn't it? We don't get a lot of that over here either. You missed the old Twitch stream? Yeah, unfortunately, mate, I don't think it's ever coming back. I'm not against ever streaming, which is why I'm here now. But streaming for me really just needs to be a when I fancy it thing. The Hangout and Hobby is in the Discord is so much better for me for just chill streaming, because it's just way more casual. You know, like everyone that is in my Discord is a patron, and I know them. I've developed relationships with them. They're people that I talk to regularly. And it just takes so much of that social pressure off and makes the process of streaming far, far more enjoyable. Everything would have to be cast in a teal resin. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Didn't realise you were streaming. That's all good, Z. It's nice to see you either way. Speaking of cats, how are they? They're fantastic. Nigel still isn't ready for cuddles, but he's getting more sociable all the time. He's getting better all the time. And Trev is just Trev, just full of personality and very weird, and we love him very much. He's a good little egg. German Shepherds are S tier. German Shepherds are pretty fucking great. I don't know if they're in my personal S tier, but I could definitely understand the argument for why you would consider them S tier. Painting one-handed and it's the wrong hand. Ooh, shit. That's a really interesting challenge. Have you made any kind of, like, I don't know, like a vlog or a blog, or, you know, some kind of content like that documents your journey in that regard? Because I think that's something that people would really, really be interested in. I think that's something that people would, you know, they'd want to know more about how you come back from something like that and continue to enjoy the thing that you love. You know, I could see there being a lot of room in people's lives for that kind of story. Which one is it? Which one is it? Is it this one? It's none of these. This is a duplicate. Okay, so that's a duplicate torso. That's not one that we're going to end up using. Let's try this one next. I choose you. Boop. And boop. And a boop. The chat is so wonderfully busy. This is really nice. Thank you to everyone who's just hanging out and keeping me chatting. This is really lovely. I love meal times. Hi Fleet, om nom 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 nom. I'm gonna have to go. Might hop back in a bit. How long have you been on for? Honestly, Chris, I've no idea, mate. I've no idea. I'm just gonna hang out for a while until I need to crack on with my day. The very maximum I'll be on for is probably another hour and a half, because actually no, in fact no, it's probably like another half an hour thinking about it, because Jenny finishes at 4 and we've got some work that we want to do together tonight, so I need to be on hand for that. The Real Iron Hand. Muggs has outed me. Real Iron Hand on Twitter, Real Iron Hand on Instagram. I'm pretty sure I follow you on Twitter, Heather. I want to say that I follow you on Twitter. Your story definitely rung a bell when you mentioned it. Let me check. Yeah, we follow each other. I thought as much. I did think as much. See, now that's nice. That is what I love about our community. I should probably update my Google avatar. There's one on too many. I love your sense of humour about it. I remember that the first time I encountered your profile. Your sense of humour about something, you know, that a lot of people would find tragedy in is really, really uplifting. Lizardmen and skinks. Does that mean new lizardmen and skinks? Is that what that translates to? I really do need to get more into Age of Sigmar, but I've no idea what army I'd want to collect. Okay, some of these I think go on to back halves of torsos. I just want to try all of these fronts just to make sure that I've got them all. Do you have a pairing? Oh, that might be yours. Nope. Nope. Yeah, I think some of these are designed to pair up onto the ones that don't have back halves of torsos. I think that's why I'm struggling to find what they go on. I'm assuming this one is supposed to be the Sarge because it's the most ornate one, or the aspiring champion, as we say in the worlds of chaos. Got to find the funny to keep going for sure. Thinking of changing my surname to Armstead. Oh my days, that's fucking wonderful. At least as far as the box for the Underworlds game is. Well, I mean, that's still pretty sweet. That is still pretty sweet. I'm a big fan of Lizardman. I'd really like to do some kind of army based around my Tortoise's colours, because he's fucking beautiful. That's the main reason. But like, whether or not it ended up being Idenef so that I could literally, you know, use the flying turtle, as much as I have a deep dislike for people that don't know the difference between turtles and tortoises. I mean, obviously not a genuine deep dislike, but I get very frustrated by people that don't know the difference between turtles and tortoises. But the turtle, the flying turtle, would be, you know, something very close to Billy visually that I could paint to look like him. I've got a feeling. What are you actually supposed to go on? I'm so confused. Half of these torsos just don't seem to fit on anything. Nor do they look like they will fit on anything once stuff is together correctly. I'm really confused. A little bit cat best minds. Okay, we'll figure it out. We will figure it out. So there's some back halves of torsos here. Maybe if I put some back halves of torsos on, it'll become more clear where things go. I obviously could have done this one mini at a time and just used the instructions. That definitely would have been an option available to me. But the reason I didn't do that is just because it's way slower to get a squad built that way. At least this way I, you know, stand a chance of getting these boys together. And I tend to remove everything off the sprue anyway, because one of the cool things about being a commission painter is that all the leftover bits that your customer definitely doesn't want, I get to chuck in my bits drawer just over there. So I need to clip everything off anyway, so it's no extra time in that regard, because all the extra bits will go into my bits drawer. So these 4 backs presumably belong to these 4 backless boys. That would be my assumption. Oh wow. Your sense of humour is honestly, I genuinely massively applaud you for it. It's fucking brilliant. You're actually genuinely, honestly brightening up my day just with this conversation. Bring back Tomb Kings, even if it's just in Underworlds. Yeah, that'd be nice. I like the Egyptians. Yeah, I mean, like I say, Ape, I totally could obviously use the instructions and not be such a fucking rank amateur about it. There is no reason to not do that, but it would slow me down a bit. So I'm just sort of using the trial and error method instead, because it's just marginally faster. Like it is pretty marginal, but it's also just a bit lazier. It allows me to concentrate a bit less, which means that I can chat to you folks a bit more. Which again, you know, is the point. I obviously Totally could have just done this either in the Hangout and Hobby on Discord or just, you know, to myself in silence. But I wanted some time with you beauties. You know, I have a feeling some of these torsos are now going to start working. Some of them. There are some plain fronted ones as well. Not all of them have drapey bits, but what are you saying? Oh, you're a twisty boy, aren't you? Twisty angle. There we go. Backless boys. Oh dear. Oh dear. It's all giggles today. Is anyone planning any new armies this year? I decided right around just before Christmas that this year's finally the year I'm going to collect orcs. They've been my pipe dream army for most of my life, but I'm not very good at painting massed infantry. I really don't enjoy it, so I've always shied away from collecting them. And I discovered the buggies lists that have been doing quite well, and was like, this might be a way that I can collect orcs. So I decided to pick them up, and I've just started making a start. You're going to do Necrons, so you picked up Indomitus presumably, and you're starting with the Necron half. I won a Necron army. I mean, I say a Necron army. It's 3 squads of warriors, an overlord, 2 squads of the new big boys, the ones that are in Indomitus, a monolith, and the terrain piece. The terrain piece I don't think I'm ever going to field. I don't know. Like, it might become good at some point, but in either event, I just don't particularly love. I'm not massively in love with the model, so I don't know if I'm ever going to field the terrain piece. But the rest of it is, you know, probably about 1250 of playable Necrons. So at some point, I've got to start chunking through those. Night Lords for you, nice. As you know, I'm quite a fan of the Night Lords, so I'm very much looking forward to that big Night Lords commission coming up. That's going to be just a good time. I think I'll get into Eldar at some point. Ape is kind of known in our community as like the Eldar guy. His armies are Craftworlds and Harlequins, basically. Ape, is that you've got something else as well, right? Like, you do own something else, but I think all you basically play is Craftworlds and Harlequins, right? Working on hammering out a Tyranids list. Want to do Chaos at some point. Yeah, I'm just, before I lean back into Chaos, I fucking love Chaos. Chaos is probably my favourite faction. But before I lean back in, I'm waiting for the updates. You know, the new generic CSM codex, 2 wounds on CSMs, stuff like that. Until that happens, I'm not prepared to invest money into an army that is just so underperforming right now. It just makes it really hard to enjoy games when you've really, really, really got to push hard to eke out a victory. Like, sometimes you just want to be able to chill and not be hyper focused on the game, you know. You haven't settled on a scheme yet. Interesting. Space in the box I don't need for my own hands because I missed out on the Indomitus launch. I don't have a self-control wait until I got 4.7k of Marines. Hey, if you've got spare Eradicators, I need more Eradicators. My spare Marines, I'm going to paint them as Guardians of the Covenant. Tight. Yeah, the Night Lord's Omnibus is really good and really well read on Audible. Really, really well read on Audible. I own some Grey Knights and Tyranids all from when I was about 15 years old. You've just not touched them. Yeah, I could potentially see myself getting into Alpha Legion, but that would be... I want to do Iron Warriors fairly soon. I've already got all of the troops for Iron Warriors. I just need to start deciding what the other stuff is going to be. But I don't want to do Iron Warriors until some of these torsos are designed for these ones. That's why they weren't going together. Again, I don't want to do Iron Warriors until the much needed updates to the generic CSM. Like, and don't get me wrong, if your opponent is playing like a really non-competitive list, you can definitely have a good game with CSM, you know, a real tight game. But you can't rely on your opponent always wanting to play a casual list, right? Like a super casual list. A lot of people like playing high-powered Warhammer. That's just a fact of life. And, you know, if you're really buzzing on an army and really want to play it, and 90% of the things that it's playing against just curb stomp it, it's just not as much fun. So, you know, it might be time to just wait and start that army at a later date. I think when you're a new player, the advice of, you know, just play what you like the look of, build what you like the look of, I think that's much sounder for new players, because new players aren't going to be playing those hyper-competitive games anyway. They're not going to be good at the game anyway, that kind of thing. So it's much less of a problem for new players. It's much less of a potential put-off or setback. But when you're an old hand at the game and you've been playing for a long time through many editions, you know, you don't want to fall madly in love with an army, pour a bunch of effort into getting it painted, pour a bunch of cash into acquiring it all, and then put it on the table and just watch it get absolutely blown apart every single time. My current project is get a full 2K painted. Yeah, I know that feeling. I just about managed to paint 2K of word bearers last year of my own. A couple of models of my Tau army, but my Tau army's not finished anyway. It's only at 1750 points. I need a Riptide for it to finish it. In fact, it's at about 17, I think, not even 1750. My Blood Angel successors, I managed to get about a K of done, but they're like really tabletop-y. They're not. There's one miniature in that list that's actually painted well. Everything else is really tabletop-y. And I painted about 4 models from my Ultramarines. So I was surprised how much of my own stuff I managed to get done last year, but this year I know that I'll be doing more commission work. So I know for a fact that I won't get as much of my own stuff done. Marines for me, Exorcist. Nice, Exorcists are a cool chapter. I just love the colour of AL. Yeah, I think what I'd actually really like to do with Alpha Legion, because they're supposed to be that kind of metallic sea green, what I'd really love to do is actually just paint them in a flat teal colour scheme and use, you know, like that highlighting method that I... 2 secs. Like the highlight method that I used for my Calgar that gives that kind of slightly metallic look to the armor anyway. It's not really NMM per se, but it just gives, you know, a slightly metallic appearance to the armor. I'd really love to do like a teal shaded with some deep blue and then brought up to white in like this style of armor for Alpha Legion to kind of, you know, make it look like it's, you know, got the hint of metallic to it, but it would just give me a cool excuse to paint a bunch of teal, and I just fucking love teal. I narrowly avoided being paralysed from the neck down at 19, longer ago than I'd like to admit, so I'm glad I can still paint too. Well, no, because I didn't know that about you, mate. That is not a thing about you I was aware of, my friend. I can't say that I've ever had any really close scrapes of that nature. I've had close scrapes in other ways, but not like that. That would be scary. It would be very scary. Yeah, that's his. Yeah, here's one. My Necrons are going against my mate's Custodies. It's going to be a chill game. Well, I know I'm sending my Necrons to their team. Custodies are pretty decent. They're pretty decent. They're very hard to kill, which is a good thing to be in 9th edition. But Necrons are pretty hot, you know. There's definitely builds for Necrons that can push Custodies hard. Especially because, like, you've got Necrons have got a thing that disrupts invuln saves, haven't they? And Necrons have also got army-wide obsec, which is like army-wide obsec is good anyway, but army-wide obsec against low model count armies like Custodes is like, it's really powerful. It's really, really powerful. Yeah, wouldn't it be sick? Wouldn't it be sick? Just like something like Esmeralda from, or Emerald from Vallejo Model Color, like shaded down with a really deep blue, like Reaper's Ezren blue would probably be the one I'd go to. I don't know if I've got any of that on hand. Have I got any of that on hand? I don't think I have. It's not like me. That's a colour that I really like. I normally keep it on hand. I appear to not have any. But you know, Ezren blue is kind of quite similar to Cantor blue, or the colour that I use for those Night Lords. And then highlighted up to near white. Yeah, I think like you've definitely got to take the army-wide obsec trait, because that just makes your Custodes opponent have to work so much harder, like so much harder, which is big game, you know. It ain't no joke. Oh, that is that one. Okay, cool. And then yeah, you know, I guess the other thing would be big blobs is probably better than MSU against Custodes. Like warriors in 20s, if you can, is probably better against Custodes. Because they've definitely got the firepower to just kill to just wipe squads if you go for MSU. Whereas if you're taking your blobs in 20s, even though you're making their blast weapons better, they don't have a ton of blast weapons. And so, you know, the small number of weapons that you're making better is offset somewhat by the fact that you're actually going to get your reanimation protocols a bit more effectively. I gotta run. Need to visit the DMV. Catch you later, Stu. Enjoyed the stream. Thanks, TJ. I'll see you in the Discord, my friend. I will see you in the Discord. You take care. Good luck at the DMV. Yeah, actually, that's another thing that that happens a lot in the Discord these days. We've been arranging a lot of tabletop simulator games so that people can still play through the pandemic. It was Fonsati, who I don't think is actually here today, who kind of spearheaded that, got it set up, and that's been fucking amazing for me because I hadn't had an opportunity to play Ninth at all. I played my first game of Ninth literally like a couple of months ago, and it was in my Discord. I had no experience in the new edition whatsoever, and I was starting to really feel detached. It was making me feel detached from the hobby because I just couldn't really effectively join in conversations, because whilst I have a lot of experience with Warhammer and I can generally identify like what's good in a vacuum, I didn't have the context of the edition to be able to understand how the game was being played. And it made me just feel like I had to like sit out of conversations when people were talking about what's hot and what's not and stuff like that, which was pretty frustrating. You know, it was pretty seriously frustrating. So it was really nice to have a way to be able to start playing games again, and it's got to the point now where I think pretty much every week there's games happening now. I don't think a week has gone by where there's not been games. And that's another thing that's just made the Discord so indispensable for myself, and I'm sure for a number of other patrons as well. Capping objectives with Scarab Swarms. Now use Scarabs to tag their firepower whilst the rest of the army moves around and takes the objectives. Yeah, that could be a thing. Oh, Bill, thank you. That's very kind. We're just building some chaotic gentlemen today. Just relaxing and stitching together some chaos boys. Yeah, I think unfortunately this really nice torso front I think might belong to one that I've already put a torso front on, which is a bit of a shame. So you do tend to get a few options. I think this one might be an option. That one's for him. So that's the next one we can do. Yeah, that's a shame because that's a really, really nice torso front. If I'd have known that in advance, I'd have wanted to use that one. But you live and learn. Go. Beautiful. Get some glue on your crotch, young man, and your other adjoining areas. One thing I might have to do if I do start streaming on YouTube with any regularity, and like I say, I don't think I will, but if I do, I think I will have to grab a music app again to put some background music on. I'm really noticing the silence personally. Although I mean I don't know what it's like for you folks watching. I try to, if I'm aware of the fact that I don't have background music on, I do try to make up for that by you know, talking a little bit more, so as to offer some noise, but I don't really know if I'm talking enough that the silence isn't very noticeable. Not really sure. Crotch glue. Oh, hello, Entheo. Hello. Just a one-off, my love. Just a one-off. Not getting back on the train. Entheo used to be one of my Twitch mods back in my Twitch days. She's a good friend of mine too. I just wanted to sit and build and chat, you know, and I haven't really found a good way to reach out to my audience on YouTube, like in general just yet. I'm still kind of figuring out what's the best way to achieve that, and maybe a stream every couple of months is just a nice way to be able to, you know, chat a bit more directly with people. So that's kind of where I'm at. That's kind of my thought process. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 normal torsos. No, 7 normal torsos. So yeah, I think the ones that have options we've already put torsos on, and I think these remaining torsos are the ones that go on the rest of them. I think that's where we're at now. How you doing, Entheo? It's lovely to see you. Literally spamming Necron Warriors with heavy support. 70 Necron Warriors on the table with Scarabs. Yeah, I mean, that is probably, as long as, like I say, I think you definitely need that that army-wide obsec trait. But I think as long as you're rocking that as well, then that is the way to go against Custodes. Like, just fucking all the warriors and a bit of Scarab support, and then just some big guns to blow up their Telemon and their Virtus Praetors. Like, you can definitely win the Weight of Fire war, which is how you beat armies with good saves anyway. You know, armies with 2-up saves and multiple wounds per model. Weight of Fire is kind of what you want to be bringing. It should be a good matchup for you, honestly. I think you're worried about it, but it should be a good matchup for you. I burnt myself with super glue, dripped it on my leg, was wearing cotton trousers. Oh yeah, super glue and cotton love to react. Got a 2-piece size scar now, but I'm held together by scar, so it's no biggie. Just posted what I was doing in the Food God channel. Oh, what's Frey's been up to? You naughty boy. What have you been up to, Fraser? Oh yes, bit of focaccia. Lovely. Excellent choice. I'm alright, dear. Getting the itch to assemble a mini for painting. How are you? How was your New Year's Eve? Yeah, New Year's was okay. To be honest, we've like not in a doom and gloom way, but we've just been sort of a bit over it this year. We decided not to do Christmas, which was a decision born mostly out of the fact that we both had a pretty bad year financially, and also like we weren't going to be able to see family anyway. So, you know, you add those two things together and it was just a bit like, you know, fuck it, we'll just take Christmas off this year kind of thing. Which is like absolutely fine. Neither of us were particularly upset by that or anything. You know, it wasn't a problem. We weren't sad about it or anything. But it kind of knocked on into New Year. By the time we got to New Year, we were, you know, still sort of equally feeling like, you know, let's just chill. I think, if memory serves, I think I know we went to bed before midnight, and I think we watched some. I want to say we watched some wrestling. I think we watched a movie earlier in the night and then watched some wrestling. We're both big fans of the wrestles, so if we don't know what to watch, we tend to just chuck wrestling on because it's something that we know we'll both enjoy. Silver Tides list is some of the best Necron lists out there. Yeah, that seems to be the consensus, doesn't it? Lots and lots of warriors. Lots and lots of scarabs. And then just a few big guns where it matters. I think it helps that like your average troop carries a pretty decent gun as well, you know. It's not like CSM that are carrying a strength 4 AP0 gun or fucking Imperial Guard that are carrying a strength 3 AP0 gun. You know, you've actually got some punch, which I think is definitely not nothing. Start thinking about dinner tonight as well, actually. I'm trying to remember what I'm supposed to be doing. I think so. We ended up rearranging our meal plan a little bit this week. We didn't exactly go in order. I have a feeling that tonight is either chickpea curry or tomato soup, both of which will be most delicious. I am quite the foodie. I does like the good foods. Orange Cassidy's fucking amazing. He's very, very funny. Which one is it? This one. Also, I missed it there. Take care, Heather. Thank you so much for hanging out. It was really fun having you here. Spag Bowl, yeah. Spag Bowl for catches, it's a pretty good one. Been really fun catching you live. Thank you. It's been lovely to have your company. I hear you. Nothing wrong with enjoying a delicious meal together. I saw that delicious food. Yeah, we were well on the food. That was the one thing we did get festive with, was the food. What did you do with yours? I believe congratulations are in order. I don't know to what level you want to be public about that, so I won't say anything too specific, but I do believe congratulations are in order, so congratulations. Well, that's not lined up right. Get in there, you little scallywag. Oh. There we go. There we go. Some of my parents spent New Year's in playing with new art supplies. Nice. You've been streaming a bit recently too, right? Over on Twitchy. First time. I got the right torso. First time. Yeah, I have to say, like, when it comes to stuff like this, where you're just doing something brain dead, just having a bunch of folk to chat to is so nice. Just really makes it a much more pleasant job. See, the sad part is I'm going to basically wrap up this, and then that's probably going to be like the end of the stream. It's probably going to be about what I get done. And the sad part about that is that the worst part when doing Space Marines is always the arms and bolters. You have to do that fiddly thing where you have to have like 4 hands to be able to hold everything in place. It's never fun. I think what I'm going to do with these though is set up a series of sub-assemblies for them all. So have one arm with the bolter sub-assembled, and then have the other arm that holds the bolter already connected to the miniature. So I don't really want to give myself a hard time with the chest details. The newer CSM kit is a lot more detailed in some places, and I don't really want to make life difficult for myself, so probably going to do that. Wait, what's happening? Nothing's happening. Nothing's happening, James. What do you think's happening? I mean, I don't know. Christmas was remotely for me this year due to lockdown and travel restrictions. Joined over webcam to chill and play our present game. New Year's was me and my roommate drinking way too many bottles of bubbles and playing fighting games. That sounds alright, to be fair. That doesn't sound too bad. I've been getting pretty heavily back into JRPGs recently. I've been really missing video games and really wanting something to hook me on video games again, but nothing was quite doing it. And then I picked up Ys 3 for PC, and that really got me back on a JRPG hype, which in turn has actually led to me regularly playing video games again recently, which has been lovely. I'm really enjoying having that escape again, because for the longest time I just struggled to stay into anything that I picked up. Alright, are you for this one? You are. Getting all of these first time now. It's really nice. Just streaming through this. Doesn't feel like it's taking too long. It's always the bit that I dread with squad commissions. The batch painting is like, I don't love it, but you know, I've done enough of it to also not completely despise it. But batch building is like always one of those things that I'm just like, well, do I have to? Can I just not batch build? Is that an option? That does not quite line up. Is there a torso that I'm missing? Have I missed one? I don't think I have. No. Why then? Why then do you not line up? Torso friend? Because that's all one sculpted part, so there's nothing I could have done differently there to make that line up. That just doesn't line up. Y'all see that? That fucking huge gap? It's the last one. Everything else fits perfectly. There are no additional spares. But there's a gap there. And it's a pretty big gap. It's not just like a little one. Anyone know the answer to that? Because neither of these torsos with front plates fit. Like, neither of these fit. These are both alternatives for a different torso, which I've already put a front on. This is the last and only option. Just triple check. Yeah, no, I'm definitely not missing any torso fronts. I have definitely not missed one. Curious. Hey, Prawny, how you doing, mate? I don't YouTube stream, is the honest truth, mate. This is just something I fancied doing today. I think I've done a sum total of about, I think this is like my 4th stream on my YouTube channel, and I've been actively YouTubing for almost a year now, I think. I don't know, actually, I don't know, how long have I been actively YouTubing for? I actually don't know the answer to that. Yeah, so this one just straight up doesn't fit properly. And there is nothing I can do about it. Literally nothing I can do about it. Because this was all one piece. The legs and the back of the torso were all one piece. So it must just be like deformed or something. But there's just a gap here. There is just a gap here that I can't do anything about. So, I mean, I guess I'll just get some putty in there. That's kind of how it's going to be. But I think that's probably about as far as I can get these built today, to be honest. Because like I say, Jen's finishing in about a quarter of an hour, and there's a few bits of work that we need to do together tonight. We want to get some postal stuff ready for our little side gig. We make very pretty brush soap and an all-purpose medium thinning agent, matting agent, and we've got orders to get out this week. Just seeing if I can find some pictures for you. For those of you that have never seen them before, this is Le Macaron, which is our brush soap, and this is Painter's Milk, which is our all-purpose thinning medium. You can find us at the Painter's Bakery on Etsy if you are interested in having a closer look at all that. But yeah, we've got to get some orders done for all that tonight. I've got a few more commissions to box up to get out to people. Apes got some commissions coming from me. A couple of other patrons I owe commissions to that I can ship this week as well. I've had a bit of a choke on shipping. Love your channel. You need more subs for your production value. Oh, mate, thank you. I'm trying, man. I'm trying. It takes time, you know. YouTube is it's one of those things that, you know, a bunch of people like to act like they know what's up when it comes to YouTube, but the real ultimate truth of YouTube is that the vast majority of channels that are successful because they're lucky. The production value of your content, the quality of your content actually has very, very little sway over how successful your channel is going to be. Because what dictates success is how much YouTube decides to show your stuff to people, ultimately. It's such a big platform, you cannot possibly do as much work to promote your channel as YouTube can do for you, incidentally, just by actually showing people your videos. And so, you know, a lot of it, like, I've been getting a lot of comments recently where people are like, you've only got 2,000 subs, you should have 20,000, 200,000. Like, there's been a lot of those kind of comments coming in recently. I am working my arse off to try and push and expand the channel as much as possible. Ultimately, there's very little I can do on my own. You folks sharing stuff on social media makes a huge difference. Because, you know, for every one of you that shares something on social media, thousands more people may potentially see it. And so the knock-on effect of that is massive. So if you ever see my Facebook or Twitter posts where I've posted a video, retweet them or share them if that's something you want to do to help the channel grow. But ultimately, what it's going to come down to is I need to wait for that lucky break. You know, that video that YouTube decides to just show to a lot of people. There are some channels that are very famous these days where that's exactly how they got big. They just had one video blow up and go viral, and that led to their entire subscription base. So, you know, it will come, hopefully. Hopefully I will have my moment in the sun. I would love to be successful with YouTube. I would love for YouTube to be earning more so that I can put more back into it. Actually, you know, pay a professional editor instead of self-editing. You know, be able to concentrate much more on just getting good quality footage and, you know, doing some more artistic stuff with how videos are shot and that kind of thing. But it'll all come down the line, and with any luck, it will come before too long. Fingers crossed and all that. So yeah, I'm going to wrap up for today, folks. Everyone who hung out today, for the vast majority of this stream, we had sort of around 25 viewers, which, for saying that I didn't announce the stream, saying that I only tweeted and put a Facebook post up about it literally after I was already live, is really heartwarming, because that's quite a few of you that have hung around for a pretty significant length of time, sat and chatted to me. The conversation has been lovely. We've gone over all sorts of things. People have asked questions that got me on some pretty lengthy tangents, which is unfortunately just a thing that I do. Yeah, I do still take commissions, mate. I'm definitely, you know, being pickier, but your stuff is stuff that I'm always willing to work on anyway, mate. You're an old repeat client, and you've been with me since the start of me taking mini painting commissions. So just get in touch how you normally would, and I'll be there for you, bud. But yes, I'm gonna get out of here now, folks. So thank you so much, everyone. Next week we have got Custodes and Night Lords coming up. It's going to be how-tos for both videos next week, and then the week after that, I know that there's more Custodes, but I can't remember off the top of my head what the other one's going to be. But there are things afoot. So thank you, everyone, for your support. One last time, do not forget that if you want to gain access to the Patreon Discord, you can do so from as little as $1 American a month. It's very, very cheap to be able to get in there. And there are other benefits on top of that. So patreon.com/thatMrShy, if that's the thing that you want to do. The Discord, like I say, is just one of the benefits. There are many, many more things on top of that, but the Discord is definitely the best thing about the Patreon, in my personal opinion. It's the thing that I most love doing. Obviously, you can also find me on social media. On Twitter, I am at thatMrShy1. On Facebook, it's facebook.com/MSPCArt. That's MSPC art, all one word like that. Should probably change that at some point to try and get everything all in line and, you know, looking the same, but whatever. So folks, thank you so much for your time today. It's been lovely. It really genuinely has been a very uplifting experience for me. I hope that you've enjoyed it as well, and I hope that I will see you in the comments sections of future videos. But until the next one.